Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Morgana Radio, where I, your host, Morgana Ray, interview the world's most fascinating thought leaders on money, love, and magic. Because honestly, you can make all the money in the world, and if you are lonely and miserable, what is the point? So today, I brought in a bona fide love coach, not just a love coach. I hired him and paid him the big bucks. And I'm a bit of an outlier because he is super famous for being the guy who helps women find their love. I hired him after I met my guy. And so ladies, if you're in love, lean in for this. As soon as I started liking my husband, Devin, I became a crazy person. All of my confidence, self-assurance went out the window, and I became a quivering basket of what does that mean? What does that mean? Does he like me? Crazy. And I needed help so that I could bring my crazy to today's guest and then appear to be normal again on my next date. So I am introducing you to Marc Katz. He is billed as the personal trainer for smart, strong, successful women. Hello! He is the dating coach who's been helping singles since 2003. He is the author of 4 books, most recently Believe in Love. And he's been featured on hundreds of media outlets, including Today, the New York Times, CNN. In 2015, his blog got nearly 9 million readers. Whoa! And he also created Love You, a comprehensive 6-month video curriculum to help women understand men and find love. Evan's Love You podcast, which is awesome, launched in 2016 and already has over 250,000 downloads. Whoa! So, today's topic is how to understand, connect, and communicate with men. Welcome, Evan. I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm telling you, I now have an introduction that I have to live up to. That was a pretty good one. But with your self-deprecation, now I can't even make fun of you because you've already made fun of yourself. So I'm ready for you, and I'm really looking forward to hearing where this dialogue goes.
Thanks. Something that I love to read your blog because your topics are always, even though I'm really happily married. Thanks a lot to your help.
You mentioned it once or twice.
Yeah. Wedding number 3 in Croatia.
If you haven't forgotten,
yeah.
Morgana has committed the act of marriage more than
18 times. Yeah. So, okay. What I love about your material, what you write, what you say on interviews, is you're not afraid to stir things up, speak the truth. And the reason I hired you is because I have great girlfriend dating coaches. But you need to talk to a guy to know how guys think. So you say that men are about feelings, not about looks, which kind of goes against everything I was led to believe growing up, everything I've seen on TV and read in magazines or heard in presidential debates. So what do you mean by that?
Well, you open up a big can of worms. And you're talking about something that's one of the major premises of my book, Why He Disappeared. Looks, men are shallow. It's not as simple as, oh, just let yourself go. Men don't care. No, it's not that. It's that looks is great. It'll get you in the door, right? But there's not a happy marriage that's sustained over 40 years based on looks, our presidential candidate notwithstanding. Truly, looks will get you in the door, but ultimately what determines whether you've got a happy guy is how he feels in your presence. Does he feel accepted, appreciated, admired, right? Does he get his warm fuzzies around you because you bring something that no one else can bring, right? He doesn't get it from his job. His job is a challenge. His guy friends are fun, but they bust his balls. They don't love him and support him unconditionally in that same way. Men don't rally around each other like women do. So you, as his partner, are responsible for giving him the one thing he can't get anywhere else. which is unconditional love, support, sweet, nurturing, patient, understanding. And a lot of smart, strong, successful women, that's not their primary definition of themselves. So that's where this gets a little interesting. It's where the conversation really begins to take off.
Interesting, because I actually heard a woman tell me a week ago that she believed that men like bitches. And you don't agree with that?
Don't agree with that at all. I think if I were to use my own terminology from Love You, could we agree that women like nice guys with balls?
Yeah.
They don't like jerks. They put up with jerks sometimes because they're attractive and confident, but they don't like being mistreated, right?
Mm-hmm. And that relationship won't last. Women will not stay.
Or they will, and they'll be miserable. Right? I get a lot of clients, I had a miserable 22-year marriage, and I stayed because I was afraid to rock the boat and afraid for the family and didn't think I deserved better. But at the end of the day, women want nice guys with balls, with confidence, the ability to have opinions and make decisions. Men don't want Stepford wife doormats, right? But they do want cool women who let them be men, who have healthy boundaries. So nice guy with balls, cool girl with boundaries. Those are the archetypes for successful marriages. And when it tilts too far from one side to the other, there's going to be a problem. Someone's going to dominate. And so men don't like bitches. No man wants to be emasculated or walked over or talked down to. There's a big difference between being a bitch and having boundaries. And anybody who misunderstands that is, I'm glad we have more time to talk.
Well, you and I both have a friend who dated a very successful, very visible, very high-powered alpha woman and then broke her heart. And he told me that at the end of the day, he didn't want to have dick wars with his mate. So how does a woman's success play into finding love?
I just did a really interesting interview with Megan Down earlier this morning from the LA Times, who I love. She emailed me. I was like, oh my God, I love you. I would totally want to talk to you. And she was asking largely the same question about women, money, and success, societal expectations. I could spend 45 minutes on that. And so it's really hard to encapsulate. But the long and short of it is that there are two sides to every story. It's important for both sides to look at the other side and find validation in it. It's not that different than politics when you get right down to it. So men are often insecure around women who are more successful. That's not something that women are just making up or complaining about. It's a real thing. On the other hand, that says something about those men, right? The fact that their values have been so inculcated that they think that their whole virtue comes from being the protector and provider. It's very old school. It's from a time where women couldn't protect or provide for themselves. Post-women's lib, women don't need men in the same way that they used to. But they still want their men that way. So it's kind of messy. So are men who are now not necessarily as educated, successful as women insecure? Yes, that's a real thing, and they need to learn to value themselves on their head, their heart, their humor, their loyalty, their kindness, not just how much is in their wallet. They need to value themselves on other things instead of feeling less than around successful women.
So we know what men need to do, but the people listening are probably women. So what do the women need to do?
Well, again, I needed to validate what women are experiencing.
Yeah.
Men are intimidated by me.
Thank you.
I can't pretend it's one-sided. So yes, any guy who's that intimidated by you is not man enough for you. That's his issue. But what you bring out is you're not appreciating for what he does bring to the table, right? Imagine men dated like women, right? If I'm a very successful guy, I've got a wife who had a job for 16 years making 50 grand a year, no health insurance, in debt. I didn't devalue her for that. It's part of the package. I value my wife because she's cool and she's fun and she's just the nicest person in the world, and she makes me laugh and she puts up with me and my bullshit, and I love her for a million different ways. If she had $1,000,000, it would be a great bonus. But that's not the main attraction. And so as men need to get less insecure around successful women, women have to provide that nurturing and support and understanding and praise of their man who has less money. Part of the reason, I've been dancing around it, but I'll nail it, part of the reason men are insecure around smart, strong, successful women is that smart, strong, successful women often look down on them, treat them like they're not good enough, and make them feel insecure. So if you have a partner who looks down on you, it's hard to feel really confident, masculine, and when your partner actually does look at you in that way and says, come on, man, get it together. Why can't you be more X, Y, and Z? Right? Well, that's not who he is. Right? I don't spend any time trying to change who my wife is, apart from making her more on time. That would be nice. But for the most part, I don't spend much time worrying about what my wife is not. Right? A self-made millionaire. I focus on the many great things she brings to me, and that is far greater than the value if she had money. So if you have money, guess what? You don't need money. That is the solution that men figured out years ago. You've never seen Rupert Murdoch thinking, I need another billionaire, right? I need to date another billionaire because no one else is going to get me or respect me or understand me. Or that's a woman's story. Is I need a man who's just like me but more.
And
once you let go of that, it opens up the world. You can actually date the way men do for love.
So you brought up something really interesting there, the idea that I need to date me but more. And I see that all the time with my girlfriends, that they are looking for the spiritually enlightened yoga dude who is bringing in 7 figures but still has time to meet all of her emotional needs. So if the men making less may be insecure, you're saying that she doesn't have to date somebody at her level or above to find happiness. Can you talk about that?
If you have money, you don't need money. That is one thing that men, because of, I'm certainly not going to reduce it to biology. Certainly the way we're raised. Sorry about my phone. It never occurred to me to date for money. Right? I'm attracted to bright women. I've always been attracted to ambitious women. The fact that my wife is now a stay-at-home mom is a byproduct. It wasn't the goal. It's just sort of what happened. Phone. Sorry about this.
I can't hear it.
Okay, like landlines. So really, when you're casting for the part of your spouse for the next 40 years, if you have money taken care of, because you're not planning on being a stay-at-home mom, you love your job. That's your passion. Literally anything he brings to the table is a bonus, as long as he's not taking something off the table. You don't want to have to, the guy who's, busking for quarters on the subway, or the guy who does, clown gigs on the weekend for $50 a pop. But there's a whole wide swath of middle class to upper middle class men who make $50,000 to $150,000, right here in a town like LA, who are great guys, perfect husbands, right? And you don't need their financial support, you need their emotional support. And so once you open up to that world, dating becomes a lot easier. If you think of the women you're referring to, as I do, these are my clients, they're 95th percentile everything. So they're beautiful and they're smart and they're educated and they're wealthy, and they say, here's my dating pool, it's the 5% above me. Well, that 5%, A, is in high demand. B, doesn't always want you in return. We've seen that. Right? Or maybe they want you, but 10 years ago or some crap like that. Or C, when you get them, you discover, there's a problem with the guys who are the 5% above me. They're narcissists. They're selfish. They think they're so great. They're married to their work. They don't want to settle down. They think they deserve 2 women at once. Right? But he's the only one I'm attracted to. He's the only one I respect. Right? So once you realize you don't have, that's not the only portion of the population you could date. You could date a guy who's 85th percentile in looks and 85th percentile in intelligence. So he's below you, but he's the one who appreciates you and lets you go out and be that entrepreneurial superstar you are without trying to hog the spotlight or condemning you or cutting you down or competing with you or there's so many different ways to have a happy marriage, but it's all about complementary energy. It's not dating you with a dick.
So can a man be a man in the relationship if the woman makes more money?
Yes, absolutely. Unless you define masculinity by money.
Mm.
And I think if we're dealing with women entrepreneurs, I think it would almost be insulting to tell women that masculinity equals money. Right? I mean, that's how dare we say that? Right? So masculine energy is going out and doing proactive, and feminine is receptive and warm and nurturing, and we all have a blend and need partners who have a blend of masculine and feminine energy, right? So women have a burden that men don't. They have to be able to, it's the Hillary Clinton dilemma, right? Like we're going to talk about, let's talk about it. It's the idea that a woman can do the exact same thing that a man does and be judged for it, right? And be judged harshly, right? It's a false equivalence. So the woman who is ambitious at work is a bitch, where he's just a man, right?
Yeah.
That's we don't have to sort of relitigate that, but we can say that what works at business isn't always as effective as at home, and everybody needs to get a lot more softer and more patient with each other. Feminine energy needs to reign at home. Yes, dear, from your husband. Yes, dear, from your wife. How could I help you today? How could I be a better partner today? When it's all about you, ego, ambition, opinion, my way or the highway, alpha, masculine, is not an effective relationship strategy.
So what do men really want in a relationship? Because my friends who are the most hurt, and most of us have been that person at some time in our life. We think they only want sex, they only want this. What do men really want?
It's one of those interesting things. I think men and women are 95% alike. I mean, we're people. Right? Human needs are similar. So it's very hard to do this without offending someone or stereotyping, because stereotypes have a basis in truth. So let's start off with, we all have human needs, right? Men and women are 95% alike. The friction, the reason I even have a job is that there is a slight difference, and we need to understand and acknowledge that difference. But let's not treat men as the other. I think we could start off with agreeing this. Wouldn't it be a better world if men understood women?
Of course.
If men really got that women wanted to feel safe and heard and understood. Right? Our conversation right before this, like, I just need you to understand me. You don't have to agree with me. I just need you to hear me and understand where I'm coming from, right? And know that you're going to be there by my side regardless of whether you agree with me in this moment.
Yeah.
Right? Safe, heard, and understood. That's one of the things that I teach.
I think I just had an orgasm.
One of the things that I teach women, they need to find in a man, and they know it, they've just never verbalized it like that.
Yeah.
Heard and understood.
Yeah.
Men want that too, right? They do. I just used the terms earlier: accepted, appreciated, and admired. Right? Fundamentally, a guy wants a woman who's like, "You're good enough as you are," not, "You need to dress better. You need to make more money. You need to get more fit." There's a lot of that, and it's not that the criticism is in and of itself wrong. Any criticism a woman's ever leveled at me, on some level, is correct. I could tell you what's wrong with me. You could tell me what's wrong with me. It's true. But I didn't get married to have someone as my consultant who's coming into my business to tell me how I could improve, right? I want someone who's like, I love you as you are. All your broken pieces and your flaws and your ticks and your annoyances, I could deal with them. So if you can accept a man as he is without saying, he'd be great if he changed this, 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 and this, if you could really make him feel accepted, you will be the first woman on the planet who's ever done it. And that took me 300 days to realize that's the holy grail. I went out with all these amazing, impressive, smart, strong, successful women, and not one of them accepted me for who I was. They were all trying to massage me into who they wanted me to be.
Because you weren't the right person for them, and they weren't the right person for you.
We could look at that retroactively, right? but I usually decided that they weren't the right person for me. Right? And it was mostly for this reason. So if we're looking for the takeaway, we could spend a whole hour talking about what men do wrong. That would be easy. Right? Men are completely clueless and tone. We don't have this. I'm a coach for women because men don't even ask for help. So you're making the most of a rough situation with guys who are not always curious, not always self-aware. How do we make the best of men as they are? Right? So anytime I'm telling women, here's what you can do better, accept him, appreciate him, admire him, and you are giving him something that he doesn't get anywhere else.
Beautiful. So you made a point before we started recording that really hit home in a deep way, because my husband and I had a deep political disagreement last night, and I was a horrible person.
You were.
Oh my God, yeah. So you said that to have a healthy, committed relationship, don't make him wrong for having a different opinion. But my God, I take that opinion so personally. It's really hard. Help.
I had a fight with my wife, and we have an unusually happy marriage because she's a very easygoing person. She's not a spitfire, difficult, political. My wife mentally lives in Disneyland. She's just happy. It's lovely. It's a wonderful. Talk about a good temperament. My wife has a good temperament.
Devin and I hardly ever fight, but when it happens, it hurts.
So that's why I'm bringing it up. John Gottman, who wrote the seven. It's not a love languages book, but he's a great couples counselor, sort of the grandfather of the industry. He watches couples sit on his couch and fight, and he's like, I can tell you if you're going to stay together, if you're going to get divorced in 10 minutes. John Gottman talks about a couple things. He talks about bids. When a partner makes a request from another partner, do you acknowledge and turn towards your partner, or do you say, no, I'm texting. I don't want to deal with you. All right. The more frequently you have positive bids towards your partner, positive reinforcement, the better your marriage. 5-to-1 ratio. Positive reinforcement versus negative. Right. Lots of positive. Appreciation, thanks. All the love languages, gratitude, affirmation, gifts, touch, acts of service. The other thing Gottman talks about is how 70% of couples' relationships, their fights are the same. It's the same fight over and over and over again in a different form. So my wife and I what in the fight? No voices were raised because we're pretty good at this point. But I knew I had to bring up something that was upsetting me. I knew she'd be upset by what I was bringing up because I brought it up before. And so I tried to find a way to gently bring it up without bringing her to tears. I failed. And the long and short of it is I had to get my piece out, which is that my wife is easygoing for everything except for party planning. So every birthday party and holiday and house party it gets ruined by how A-type and OCD, it sucks up all the oxygen in the room for it's like the Bridezilla kind of thing. Mm-hmm. That's how my wife gets around planning anything. And it has an effect on me. And so I was trying to say, hey, I love that you're really passionate about doing this, but you should realize there's an effect on me too. It's not just in its own bubble. And we talked it out, and she heard me, and we just have different points of view about what makes for a good party. I think it could be done at 90%. She thinks it has to be done at 150%. And I'm bringing it back to you and Devin and to our listeners here. She's never going to change. She hears me. She gets it. She knows why I feel the way I do. Right? I could suggest minor adjustments to her routine that would make me happier. But at the end of the day, my wife and I are going to have some version of this fight until we die. And I don't love it, but it would really require for me to either turn off my feelings or ask her to be someone who she's not. And at the end of the day, you can't really change your partner. So you have sort of no choice but to accept it. Sometimes you'll accept grumbling or a little passive-aggressive for her. Mostly the best you can do is joke about it. Right? She jokes about me and my faults. And I could joke about her and her faults, and it diffuses the situation and acknowledges it. It doesn't get mean or snarky. It's our outlet for the fact that we're as close to well-aligned as one can be, but there's a few pieces that will never fit right. So think of it like the puzzle. A good relationship should be easy. The puzzle pieces should just snap in place. But the truth is there's no perfect puzzle out there, and couples are always going to have their things where they can't see eye to eye. Hopefully they're minor things, not major things, right? Where, if I want kids, you don't want kids, well, we've got a major problem.
And yet, Gottman had pointed out that even that, marriages have thrived even with really big conflicts like that.
They do. If I'm starting from scratch, because I'm not a relationship counselor, I'm a dating coach,
mm-hmm.
I try to get people into the easiest possible marriage. Right? The marriages take work. I don't believe in that. They take effort. You seem to be a very happily married woman. I wouldn't think being with Devin is work. It takes effort to be a good partner to some degree, but mostly it's in the natural extension of I'm a good person. This is a person I love. What can I do for him today? It's really not work. The work is he disagrees with me about the virtues of Hillary Clinton, and that's a thing where you may never, you could hear each other out. You could have a calm conversation, try to respect the other side, but if you never change each other's minds, you could still be really happily married. Someone else doesn't go on a second date because of that.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Yeah, we're a little past that.
That's
yeah.
We turn these things into deal breakers, right? No, a guy who never wants to get married when you do, that's a deal breaker. A guy who can't communicate worth anything, that's a deal breaker. A guy who has a problem with honesty or fidelity, that's a deal breaker. But he makes a little less money. He's an inch shorter than I'd like. He votes for a different political party. Those aren't really deal breakers unless you make them into deal breakers. And most people, when they're swiping right or looking through a profile, how tall is he? How much money does he make? What's his education? Right? The things that have very little to do with whether you're going to be happily married. But that's what attracts you. So it's tricky.
So I think you answered this at the beginning, but I really want to touch back on this before we wrap up. And what did your wife do that made you fall in love with her? Because I know you've been complaining about this little fight you had, but I've seen you with her for years and you are gaga in love with her. So what did she do that made you fall so deeply in love with her?
Listen, we're in a helping profession, right?
Yeah.
We have issues, we explore, we trial and error, we have success, and then we reverse engineer. Right? Here's how I became the money honey. Right? Here's my journey. Here's what I learned. Here's to save you the trouble of doing it. My story is no different. Right? So everything that I teach in Love You is some reverse engineered from the happy ending. How did I get here? What could it take you to shorten your learning curve and spare you the hard-won lessons and mistakes that I made? So I've already, inadvertently told you my story, right? What did she do? She's the first person who accepted me as I was, right? She's the first person who didn't think I was difficult. The first person who appreciated that I was always trying to improve myself and my curiosity and my questioning of things, which other people deem problematic or difficult, right? It's that hyper-intellectual East Coast Jewish liberal thing. She's not fazed by it. She finds it interesting and charming, and she just, and my faults don't bother her as much. However apparent they are, they're just part of the package instead of deal breakers. So the fact that we never really fight, and we make each other laugh, and we're both extroverts, and we both value family and spending money and living in the upper middle class suburbs. The big things we're completely aligned on. But when we first met, East Coast Jewish liberal, intellectual, atheist, Catholic, conservative, military family, divorcee, older, we don't line up. And to me, that's the moral of the story, right? Every lid does have a pot. Some pots have more lids than others, Right? Literally, any guy can marry my wife and be happy. That's how great she is. I really think I call her the type O wife. You can give her to anybody. Right? I'm not type O. It takes a very specific person to get along well with me. But she's easy. So in my book, Why He Disappeared, I wrote it in 2010. I had her write a passage in it where I said, honey, what is it that you do? Because I asked the same question. What is it that you do that nobody else does? And she wrote 3 bullet points. I'm going to try to recall them. One of them was don't cry wolf, which is essentially don't make a big deal about everything. Choose your battles. Right? I know if my wife says, Evan, we need to talk, it's pretty serious shit because she never says, Evan, we need to talk. Right? If everything's a big deal, nothing's a big deal. Mulligans, right? The golf term, right? You hit a golf shot and it goes off into the trees.
Yeah.
You put another ball down. It's a do-over. She goes, give lots and lots of mulligans. Right? Assume that the guy that you're with wants to make you happy. That's a major lesson that my clients have taught me. I didn't know it was a major lesson. I thought it was obvious. If he signed on for the job of boyfriend, guess what? He wants you to be happy. And if you're not happy, he's disappointed and surprised and shocked because he's doing his best. So a lot of women think men are malicious. We're not. We're mostly clueless. We have no idea what we did or said that upset you so much. And we're sorry, we think. We just, please stop crying. That's very typical guy stuff. Mm-hmm. Where we don't even know. But you have to assume the best of your guy, not the worst of your guy. Right? So she says, give lots of mulligans. They're going to open their mouth and say stupid things. And right, if you're still thinking about it the next day, talk to him. But for the most part, let it go, let it go, let it go. There's one other thing that's escaping me because I'm still trying to focus on you. But for the most part, my wife has the temperament of a good relationship partner, whether that's a man or a woman. She's easygoing. She's secure as opposed to being neurotic. And she doesn't seek novelty, meaning she's not always looking over her shoulder for the next best thing. She's content. So if you're content, you're easygoing, right?
But you all...
They're having a relationship.
Because I have read the book, Why Did He Leave, or Why He Left, or whatever it's called. That's it. Yes, I read that one. Of course I did. And one thing that impressed me, because I think this is a big point, because I know from back in my dating days when I just wanted to do it right, apply all that same, can-do pushiness that worked in my business on my dating life, which totally doesn't work, by the way. But you made a really important point here, which is that she's secure in herself. And I think that's the big difference, because it's one thing to go, oh, I'm not going to make a big deal, even though that's really bothering me, but I don't want to be the difficult one. It's so easy for us women with our codependent superpowers to just push it down until it explodes like a volcano.
And thank you for that. Some people hear what I said and say, oh, he's just telling women to just shut up and smile. No, not at all. You can't build up resentment towards your partner. It's letting little things go and speaking up about big things. Now, if you think little things are big things, right, you're going to have trouble, and that becomes a security thing. Someone who's secure doesn't make a mountain out of a molehill. And so it's really hard for people to understand whether, is this guy being an insensitive jerk or am I being hypersensitive?
Well, and another thing is if this person doing his best isn't making you happy, he's not your guy, find somebody else. Evan has a great program for putting out awesome online dating profiles that really attract high quality guys. When I chose to go exclusive with Devin, it wasn't because he was my only choice. I had some great choices out there. It was because he was my best choice and he was the one I wanted, which is a very big difference. And if you're not happy with the person, please free that guy up for someone who will be happy with him so you can find your person. And you have a gift for us, a super awesome, generous gift that is posted at morganaradio.com along with the video where you get to see us make faces. You see the gorgeous painting in the background by Rachel Schultz. And so and you can get the download of Evan's gift. So what is the gift that you have for us?
Right now, it's probably for a limited time only. I decided to give the greatest gift that I think I could give to anybody, and that's confidence. We could talk about all this dating relationship stuff and the mechanisms of it, and what do you do if a guy wants sex, and what if he's texting you? And everything is encompassed by, if you're a confident woman, what would a confident woman do in this situation? That's always going to be your answer. What would a confident woman do? So my Love You course is an all-encompassing curriculum. I'm giving away the first 2 weeks in Love You on confidence, absolutely free, just by signing up at my website. The first week is called Past Baggage. The second week is called Why Bother Syndrome. Why do I keep on going? What's the point of all this? This is going to flip the negative into a positive, the glass half empty into a glass half full, so that you can put yourself out there and date with confidence and joy and optimism.
Fantastic. And before we sign off, we've talked about your relationship. We've talked about my relationship. But I remember you had a story of an older woman in a wheelchair who found her love. For all of you who have your stories about why it won't work for you. So can you tell us about that lady? And she had like a really cute online dating handle.
You're so smart. You're conflating actually a couple different stories.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're conflating a few of my best stories. I did help a woman in a wheelchair find love, and she had a baby after working with me. I helped her older sister find love as well, in her 50s, never married. And I had a 76-year-old woman who started working with me when she was 69, and she just got married at age 80. I've known her since the beginning of my practice, and she still follows me and sends me stuff. And yesterday I got an email from 2 women who were in my group coaching portion of Love You. They became friends in the online community. One of them is 68, lives in the Bay Area. One of them is 32 and Chinese, lives in LA. They both got married, and they had lunch with their husbands yesterday, right? So, I mean, I've had women one woman lived in the Yukon. I think there's only moose in the Yukon, but I got a guy to move from Minnesota to be with her in the Yukon. Women who are 80 pounds overweight. So anybody who says, there's no one out there for me, it's impossible, love is meant for everybody but me, there must be something wrong with me, there must be something wrong with men, it's not true. As long as you persevere and see what's out there and believe. And so I'm evangelical about this stuff because I know that it works, but it only works if you do something.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Oh my gosh. I'm Ray, ladies and gentlemen.